Good evening, John Muhammad Bey. This is in addition to fact-based, logical, chronological, linear set of circumstances that we continuously present to you. It's very emotional. But we've been fighting this fight for 10 years. So we've got it somewhat in perspective as far as the emotion. We can do that elsewhere, but we want to make sure you understand the words that are coming out of our mouths. And what he said, if tonight was the first time you heard it, I think there should be a call for action. Somebody should ask the question. Is he lying or what? At the very least, I wouldn't believe him if I was you. And for some reason, he gave me 2 pieces of paper, and one of them is a heavily redacted FBI document from 2003 from Your Black Muslim Bakery. It was a meeting by the San Francisco FBI, JTTF, Oakland Police Department, and the ATF. And I think this is only 1 page of it, but there are all redacted. Officer 1234 OPD, 1 ATF, Officer 1234 FBI JTTF. The subject, again, like I said, at that time, December of 2003, Your Black Muslim Bakery, at that time was under the leadership of Wajid Bey. And anyone who be honest will say, I was close to Wajid as his jugular vein. So if they're talking about the bakery, they got to be talking about me, Wajid, Salim, and a few others. That was December of 2003. And then I guess, so they did whatever they do, which is suck up funds based on some fear tactics that they were allowed to have these agents in and the funds to pay for them and probably a kick for the police department. But the other one that is interesting is that, again, FBI, semi-heavily redacted, it was for them to close the above captioned case and all subfiles. And I guess, like I say, since the brother gave it to me, I guess I must be a reason for me to read it. But the details, it says, writer has reviewed the above captioned case, which is that same one, and all subfiles. The above captioned case with the ATF special agent and Oakland Police Department officer. And it says, it is our conclusion, and I'm assuming since it's FBI document, our is FBI, it is our conclusion that the case of Your Black Muslim Bakery has no nexus to domestic terrorism. So aside from the fact that they were trying to hang that on us from this post-911 stuff, see, if you could say we have some Muslims who are crazy in our city, we need some funds, you were subject to get them more easier than not at that time, that climate, when they, you know, the top 5 of who did 9/11, the Nation of Islam was on that list. So again, they had a crazy bunch in Oakland that they needed funds, and at least 9 officers at this one, but then it goes all the way up to the U.S. attorney. And we don't know that because we're extremely intelligent. We only know that because we ask. And then when people don't answer us, we ask again. And then when they start stuttering, then we know, okay, now we need to start pressing. So then we go and we ask for documents. Can you print that out? And that's how this whole thing started. I went to request a copy, a routine request from the police department records of my shooting from 2005 because I want to see the pictures, because there's a bullet hole in the headrest, is what Sergeant Brock told me at the time. So to me, that means a lot since I'm still here. But they said they couldn't find it. And that didn't work too well for me. That didn't make sense to me to tell for the police department to tell me as a citizen that they couldn't find the records. Knowing that, you know, Oakland averaged over 100 murders for that decade, but nevertheless, an attempted murder of that sort with multiple gunmen and witnesses it's kind of strange that that's lost, coupled with the fact that you know it's connected directly to Wajid Bey and the murder and subsequent burial of him in Oakland. There are not many murders like that in Oakland. We average 100, but not many people were buried, wrapped in plastic. So for those two to be connected, and part of this and all this FBI, JTTF, all kind of attention, again, the U.S. Attorney and the IRS, CID, everybody was heavily involved. And when we went from the IAD sergeant who investigated our case, Captain Cunningham, the lieutenant in between, when we came to them after Frazier's office opened it, they said, everybody's watching this one.
Mr. Bey?
Yes.
JTTF?
Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Thank you.
It was an outgrowth of one of the FBI programs as a way to shift what they did is call by dealing with what they call subversive groups. And it was a way they had what they called fusion centers where, again, in the post 9/11, to deal with domestic terrorism, locally you need the local police on the ground, but you need the resources of the FBI. So how do they all communicate and cross paths in a fusion center? And that's where, so those are FBI assigned to be on the local case. So in any event, once our case was open, and again, all these people said that everyone is looking at this case. So aside from the fact that they delayed it, but for them to come back with a sustained finding, and we know that the young sergeant didn't even investigate everyone. And just again, as another example, one of the other things I've been saying from the very beginning was that my police report, again, was lost, and the lady that I spoke to a couple times, she just then determined misfiled. So you know how when you take a file out, when you put it back, it may not go back in the same place. So it could be there, and it may be found if someone is looking for something else and happened to pass it. So other than that, I was SOL. We all got that one, I'm sure. So, but what I knew was I had a partial copy of that police report myself. I had it. So I felt that the police or the city or someone should be able to find it because I can prove it exists because I have it, and it has OPD's fax number of where someone within the department, the sergeant who was working on it at the time, faxed it to me. Almost 10 years ago, he faxed it to me, and I've had it and I've kept it. And the young sergeant on IAD could not necessarily question this individual because he's retired OPD and he now is a district attorney investigator, as is one of the other high-ranking officials on this page, is now an investigator for the DA. But in any event, after meeting with everyone in IAD, meeting with Chief Figueroa, no, it was just before Chief Figueroa, one of the other chiefs we met with, and we asked about my records. And I said, why don't you check with Sergeant Brock? So they did, and he had it, as he had it for 10 years, retired police, now a DA investigator, walked with that file. Still has, unless they maybe gave it back. So if he gave it back, they still haven't investigated. We're still waiting. I got a bullet list for Chief Figueroa, and you know, he might get to the parking ticket issue. Okay, how about the murders? So we're not out of pocket. We're not spinning a story. Check us out. Prove us a lie. And if not, then act on what you know. If the police are wrong, then they're wrong. Hold them accountable. If they right, then they right. At some point, and I say this to Chief Figueroa every time I talk to him, at some point, we're going to have to work together. It's still our community. We have a responsibility in the community. We just need to stop that crap. So Warshaw knows all this, and I'll take no more than 10 more seconds. He knows all this. If you have an opportunity to get paid to look busy, will you ever get up off of that? Hell no. Thank you.
All names were called, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you.